No, it's not hammer time. It's time to build Hendricks Blue. Hi, I'm Frank, and welcome again to Building Hendricks Blue. The Hendricks County Democrats met for their regular meeting on July 14th. Chair Linda Lassiter started the meeting by having several party members read the Declaration of Independence with a discussion among the assembled after for its meaning, history, and symbolism today. She summed up the signers of the document this way.
They were sent from the 13 colonies that comprised the United States. And they weren't waiting. They didn't have elections to be delegates to the First and Second Continental Congress. They were township and county officers. They were the precinct chairs and the vice precinct chairs of their counties. That's who they were. Those are the people that were sent.
Then Linda announced Deb Rotman as the new party treasurer. The Brownsburg resident introduced herself to the group.
Yeah, so I'm a recovering college professor, and I moved to Brownsburg in 2020 to be closer to family, including a new grandchild. And I'm a certified association executive, so I have lots of experience, both formal training and professional experience in the nonprofit sector. And I'm really excited to be on the team. So thank you for the warm welcome.
Kathy Davia recapped the 4th of July parade.
For our Brownsburg parade, I can remember meetings we didn't have this many people. But between Tiffany Stoner, Drew Cox, Jered Petrey, Will Coltrion, Karen Whitney, the candidates brought a lot of people, and then we had other people. I also have done this parade and the one following it in Pittsburgh for the last couple years. Each year we get more and more enthusiastic cheers. It was fun. Yeah. So if you're in doubt about joining us at a parade, even when we went to Pittsburgh, which is smaller, more rural, we had a few boos, I'll be honest, but you get the cheers, you get the quiet thumbs up, so it's good to have them see us there.
She also mentioned there are 2 more parades coming up in September and invited more to participate.
Consider, we've got North Salem coming up September 6th and Plainfield the 19th of September. So put it on your calendars. Come have some fun with the Democrats.
Karen O'Brien reported on the fundraising committee activities, during which she made an appeal for ongoing contributions.
Recurring donation to the Hendricks County Democratic Party. I tried to get somebody else to do a testimony because I think we all need to hear this every once in a while, how that goes into being a good volunteer, a good member of our party, a good support for those who are discouraged when things aren't going our way nationally or statewide, coming to a meeting, giving a recurring donation in order to support efforts to put different leaders in office. So there's a really easy way to do a recurring donation, even if it's $5 a month, and that's through Act Blue. If we had 1,300 people doing a recurring donation, we could have billboards, we could have signage, we could have pamphlets that tell what we stand for, so that we're easily communicating with our neighbors as precinct chairs and as members of this party.
Media Chair Darcy James is looking for a graphic design volunteer. You can reach her on Slack if interested. She also reported the Young Democrats are having a trivia night for state representative candidate Dr. Karen Whitney October 2nd at Books and Brews in Brownsburg. Chair Linda announced some changes in the state party as 2 staffers, including the executive director, have resigned. Tracy Behrens-Funk reported on activities from the County Election Board as they prepare for the November general election, including the beginnings of an emergency preparedness plan.
What do we do in case of a flood? What do we do in case of a terrorist action? What do we do in case of anything? And the board has a 50-page draft. It's based largely on templates of successful plans from other states. It covers literally anything you can think of. It does put a ton of responsibility on the inspectors of those locations. So when the Democrats take back the Secretary of State office, well, everybody who wants to be an inspector, you're going to have some learning to do.
Linda went into the different poll worker positions needed for elections.
Familiar with going to a vote location and you walk to the check-in table and you show your ID and you sign your name. The people who are running that machine, we all have electric poll books now that are iPads. Those are clerks. The clerk is going to hand you a card and a slip of paper. She's going to hand it to you and you're going to walk over here and you're going to hand it to the judge. The judges take you to the vote machine, put that card in, and that automatically programs the ballot to your ballot in your precinct so that only the people you're eligible to vote for show up on that ballot. And they are there for questions and such and such.
She also noted the additional roles of canvassers and the travel board. All those roles are comprised of bipartisan teams. The only exception are the inspectors, who are the same party as the Secretary of State. Finally, Elizabeth Coleman read the report of the Field Operations Committee and their continued effort to get out the vote for the November general election. Some of their activities are on our calendar of events. If you are a candidate with an event you'd like featured on our list, send it to me at frank@buildinghendricksblue.com. We will feature it here and on the events page of our website. There hasn't been a Democratic member on the Hendricks County Council for many years. Jered Petrey thinks it's time for that to change. He is the subject of today's blueprint. We welcome to Building Hendricks Blue, Jered Petrey, Democratic candidate for Hendricks County Council. Jered, please introduce yourself to those who have not met you.
Sure. I am a mid-40s professional who is currently the chief operating officer of a regional eye care company based here in nearby Carmel, Indiana. That company, I've only been there for about a year. Prior to that, I was with Ascension Medical Group, so I have a history of medicine management. Before that, I was in recruitment, and then before that, I was in teaching, doing a career and technical education course on broadcasting. So I've got a lot of different experiences. I live here in Plainfield with my wife of nearly 18 years and my son, who is 17 and will be a junior at Plainfield High School.
And Jered, you are running for Hendricks County Council District 3. What makes up District 3?
So that's Guilford Township, so that's most of Plainfield, Liberty Township, Marion, Clay Township, and Franklin Township. So it's 5 different townships in the southern part of the county.
Could you please explain the difference between the county council and the county commission?
Yeah, so the commission is a group of 3 individuals who are elected but they control a lot of the larger picture things. So if you think about things being implemented within the county, say when they transferred the animal services part of the county into the sheriff's department, that's the commission doing that. The council is really the group that oversees how Hendricks County spends their money. So they really set the budget, they approve salaries, decide property tax and how that's distributed, and then also authorize the spending that the commission requests and review the local government financial plans. So the council, if you think of it, is really the purse strings of the commission.
We are talking with Jered Petrey, Democratic candidate for Hendricks County Council District 3. Jered, in my quick research for this interview, I couldn't find a single instance of a Democratic representative on the Hendricks County Council. As a matter of fact, the search answer I got back from the internet was literally, I don't know.
Yeah, so before I even got into this race, the first thing I had to do was even look up who my councilman was, because they don't get out and about very much. But so yeah, it's 7-0 GOP right now. And for a county the size of Hendricks, it's sort of surprising that you don't really have any Democratic representation for at least the last 25 years. I've researched back to about 2000, and even in my district, I don't think anyone's actually run for this seat as a Democrat for the last 25 years. So I think I'm kind of bucking the trend here a little bit, but I think we're ready for that here in Hendricks County.
Jered, I went to your website, jeredpetrey.com, and I took note of the ideas central to your campaign. The first was financial transparency.
Yeah, so kind of going back to, again, when I started thinking about running in January, obviously I didn't know who my councilman was, so I started looking at some of the minutes, and then I realized that all the meetings are filmed and they're put on YouTube, available for everybody, which is transparent in that way, but it's the minimum amount of transparency. So, your tax dollars go to fund all these major services. It's very hard to look up how much is being distributed to each. Now, you can go to Gateway Indiana, and if you know how to click through the right filters and everything, and you can get to the actual hard numbers. But I truly believe that the county council needs to be out in the public talking to people about what is being spent here in Hendricks County, but also more of a one sheet. So as a COO, when I do financial budgets for my ownership team, they're not MBAs like me. They don't enjoy poring over numbers and looking for the fine details. What I provide them is a one sheet, essentially. 8.5 by 11 executive summary of here's what's going well, here's what we need to improve on, here are the things that we're going to focus on in the next month or year or whatever. That is something that I believe that we should be giving the taxpayers of Hendricks County. Next
up was government accountability.
Yeah, so I think this one came up recently, that a lot of the contracts that are given out here in Hendricks County have a roundabout way of being connected to those individuals who are on the commission and the council. I'm not accusing anyone of wrongdoing. I just believe that there needs to be a very clear separation of who is governing our county and what work is being done. I also believe that the decisions made should be, again, out in the public, having your representatives be available to speak with each person within their constituency. I think that is something that I've missed out here in Hendricks County. The meetings are at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Very hard to get to. It feels like they're almost hidden. So I would actually prefer them to be in the evenings, similar to some of the town councils here, to be a little bit easier for people to get to.
Again, we are joined on Building Hendricks Blue by candidate for Hendricks County Council District 3, Jered Petrey. Jered, residents of Hendricks County have seen explosive population growth over the past couple of years. How would you address this topic?
So one of my favorite things to say is Hendricks County is probably about 20 to 25 years behind Hamilton County as far as growth goes. I think we're getting there, right? We can kind of see where Hamilton County was in the late 90s and early 2000s and kind of compare that to where Hendricks County is now. The nice thing is that we have that case study. We have what they've done right and what they've done wrong to be able to look at here in Hendricks County and really plan for the future. Part of that is I know that specifically in my district, Liberty Township is fighting a good fight right now. They've gone through some different ideas of how to consolidate some services or to prevent suburban sprawl venturing into the Hazelwood, Belleville, and Clayton areas. I know that there was recently a big controversy where the Hinkie group was able to take a lot of land on State Road 39, and the state actually allowed the town of Plainfield to incorporate that, even though it doesn't connect, which is surprising. But I think that we need to be able to pay attention to who lives there, who has lived there, and understand that not everyone wants to live in a sprawling suburb. Some of our rural communities definitely deserve to keep their farmland. When we do build suburban areas, we need to make sure that we keep open space and develop a character around the areas. We don't want to be characterless. I think that many of our downtowns, Danville, Brownsburg, Plainfield, have done a good job of keeping those community downtowns while the sprawl continues. But I think that overall, it's just making sure that you listen to the residents who've been there for a while, not pushing taxes to them, not giving abatements to large corporations, and making the individuals who've lived there for 20, 30, 50 years have their property taxes go up just to support those businesses that aren't really doing much for them.
Agreed, but if we're going to continue to grow, we need to have jobs for everyone and keep costs from going out of control.
So that kind of goes along with smart growth. If you bring in jobs and opportunities with some of these large corporations, I think that we really need to talk to them and make sure that they're going to support our trades and apprenticeships that are here locally, get involved with the schools for workforce programs. The Made at Plainfield organization is one of the best in the state. It's something that my son will likely look at in his future for a trade. But I understand we got to balance bringing in these companies and also bringing in jobs. So one of the biggest issues I have is tax abatements. I cannot stand to hear about all of these warehouses going up and tax abatement after tax abatement. Who ends up paying for that are our local citizens. So if they're bringing a company, if they're bringing a warehouse, if they're bringing something like that, there needs to be direct proof that those local income taxes that those individuals will be paying will more than make up for the property tax abatements. Otherwise, the property tax abatement should not happen. As far as getting more jobs and training here, I think we really need to work with our unions, with our trade companies. We've got a multitude of them that are located here in the county that we could work with and connect them with local schools and local training opportunities to get our young people working here in Hendricks County, not just living here.
We are talking with Jered Petrey on Building Hendricks Blue. Jered is the Democratic candidate for Hendricks County Council District 3. Jered, as an area grows, one sometimes sees an increase in crime. How do we grow the Hendricks County population while keep our citizens safe and providing an inclusive environment for all?
Right, and I'm not against police funding or anything like that. I think that's extremely important to keep our communities safe. I believe that we should also be fully funding our fire and EMS departments. especially in our rural areas where the county controls those budgets. Seniors especially, as our population continues to grow with seniors and people with disabilities, they're really navigating through that healthcare system and just trying to get all of them into an area. Plainfield would be the best example, where it's easy to move around, make sure that the sidewalks are fixed, make sure that each business is operating under ADA standards. But that's not the only thing. Yeah, the physical abilities and making sure people can get around is fine, and that's safe and inclusive. But inclusive to me also means making sure that you get a piece of everyone and be able to hear from every group that lives in our county on how and what they see this county looking like in 10, 15, or 20 years. I think too often we have an older white generation that is running the county. The county has changed a lot in the last 20 years. So I think that we need to bring in some of our younger groups. I think we need to bring in some of our different ethnicities into the conversation as well. The neighborhood I live in here, we have a Jewish family that lives nearby. We have a Punjabi family that lives right across the street, a Haitian family down the road. It is a unique mix of people here in Hendricks County, and I think we really need to hear from everybody and make sure that we're including them in these conversations.
And the last item from your website's list was civic and cultural engagement. Could you expand on what you mean by this topic?
It kind of goes along with the inclusivity, right? So we would like to make sure that we grow that support for each individual. So making it more understandable and relatable to all constituents that live here. I would, with budget from the county, like to support some of our cultural institutions. The best example right down the road from me here is Hendricks Live. But those type of things to make sure that we are providing a cultural and entertainment environment for us. Now, I also consider parks part of this as well. So we do have a really good trail system here in Hendricks County. I'd like to continue to expand that. Some of the parks here are first rate. So let's continue supporting that and providing the funding that's appropriate for that as well.
Jered, today's dragon seems to be data centers. They eat electricity, they can hurt our environment, and they don't produce many jobs for our local economy. Recently, Boone County put in place a 1-year moratorium on their construction. Would you agree to a similar plan in Hendricks County?
Yeah, I have actually called for a data center moratorium here as part of my campaign. Boone County has done it. Obviously, they did it a little bit late for the LEAP district, but they have called for one after the LEAP district approvals. Morgan County has some standards that have been put into place recently as well. Same thing with Putnam County. So we're sort of surrounded now. Marion County is, I know, looking into it right now as well. So Hendricks County needs to get along with this as well. It's not necessarily the power generation that data centers is the concern. It's the water consumption. It's the potential pollution. One that people need to be really paying attention to is this one down in Monrovia. Pollution and use does not stop at the county line. And this data center actually backs up right onto the Hendricks County line. They have recently asked for many, many diesel generators to be used there in the event that they need them. And my concern is that they're going to need them all the time. Though we need to put restrictions in place for these data centers to make sure that that they are following the rules that are there for to keep all of our citizens safe. The other problem is that the way technology has been going, are these really going to be needed in 10 years? And if not, they're going to be large buildings sitting there empty.
Great point. Let's talk about another top of mind item for Hendricks County residents, especially homeowners: property taxes. Over the past several years, we've all seen exponential growth in the toll placed on us. How would you address a voter who complains to you about his bill?
So yeah, I can speak from a firsthand experience here. Last week, my wife and I were actually very close to making an offer on a house here in Plainfield, another house. And what stopped us is really the property taxes, because we're not sure what they're going to look like in 2 years. Yeah, we can buy a house right now for a certain price, but what's it going to look like in 2 years? So we stayed in place. So I think that property taxes have become a very hot button issue. I'll be blunt. I don't think that as a non-tourism state that we're going to be able to eliminate property taxes. The way Florida does, or even Tennessee has, is because they rely on tax income from out of state. Indiana doesn't necessarily have that. So I think that we can look at some options. My idea, or the one that I've kind of thrown around a little bit, and I'll be honest, I haven't done the full research on this. I think that I would really support a freeze on property tax evaluations when a person goes to Social Security. I think that's very hard line in a person's life, right? When they've retired and they begin taking Social Security, I think that it would be a proper time to freeze their property taxes at that time. We still have to have property taxes to pay for schools. We have to have property taxes to pay for our public services. Part of the concern that's coming down the road is that the state legislature has slashed property taxes. So we're looking at referendums coming up for a lot of school districts to even keep their doors open. Plainfield alone is losing over $2 million over the next 3 years. Mill Creek over $1 million. So the school districts are going to start struggling. You're going to end up paying those taxes anyway. My concern is the state house is slashing property taxes and taxes in general to look good, to keep their job, and hoping that they're pushing down all those taxes to the county level, and hoping that our citizens don't pay attention to that county tax level. Local income tax is also changing. It's very confusing. They really don't have rules out for that yet. But what happens now is that towns over 3,500 people, so Plainfield, Avon, Brownsburg, Danville, all get more of a say at the county level on how the funds are now going to be distributed. In the past, and how it works now with property taxes, is that the money is distributed on a population basis at a set percent for every person in the county. So it's identical. It can be changing. I believe that there's going to be more conversations about this in October. But I'm really worried about this. I think that as Hendricks County is one of the most important counties in the state of Indiana, we should be leading the way on this. If you watch council meetings, they have literally said they have no idea what's going on, that they're going to wait for this conference in October. Jeff Thompson, who is a spearhead of this change, lives right here in the county. I think we either need to be working with him, finding out what we should be doing, and setting a good example for the rest of the state and how our communities work together to make sure that our citizens don't end up paying more because of this change.
Jered Petrey is the Democratic candidate for Hendricks County Council District 3, representing the greater Plainfield area. Jered, a topic near and dear to my heart is the funding for public health, including mental health services. What's your position on the importance of public health funding?
I think this is extremely important. So I recently went to an accessibility meeting here in Plainfield. Accessibility is a statewide organization that supports safe and inclusive communities, to get back to one of my other things, safe and inclusive communities for disabled individuals. And disabled could be anything, could be ADHD and autism, all the way to complete blindness. I went to that meeting to discuss things with emergency management. And in that meeting, it was shocking at how many things that we have available to these communities, but we don't have them wrapped up in one package. So they're kind of scattered throughout the county. So part of our plan in that meeting was to develop that. I'll be proud to say that I was the only county candidate or current representative that was at that meeting. So public health funding to me means a lot. I truly believe that we need to keep our community safe and have access to healthcare on every level. It's a little bit above the county level, but what I would really like to see in Indiana is to support primary care doctors to stay in smaller communities. When I worked for Ascension Medical Group, not to throw them under the bus, because believe me, they're a great organization. We just couldn't keep doctors in certain areas. They would want to move their practice to Carmel or to Avon or something like that. So my communities, I had to shut down a whole office in Crawfordsville that was very busy. But the problem is that we couldn't keep doctors there. So I think that we need to find a way to keep our doctors in smaller rural communities. Places like Coatesville and Stylesville and Clayton need to have doctors as well. So I think that needs to happen at the state level. Now at the county level, what we can do is fund our fire and EMS, our healthcare initiatives, making sure that the health department stays open and accessible at regular hours that people can actually get to at the county courthouse. Yeah, it's sort of one of the most important things to me. Now, let me say, Frank, my son has special needs. I've been named the 2026 Mental Health Now candidate. I believe that we can do more for mental health. Mental health is healthcare, and we need to recognize that as a county and make sure that we're able to provide the funding that we can to support those organizations and keep some of our family and friends that are struggling with mental health issues safe. And the best way to do that is to fund those programs.
Jered, I can't thank you enough for joining us on today's Building Hendricks Blue.
Thank you, Frank, for having me. I know this podcast is just starting, but it's going to be a fantastic thing here for us in Hendricks County. One thing that I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is just encourage people to go out to my website, jeredpetrey.com. Check out what I've been talking about today. If you want to know more, if you have a one-on-one question for me, feel free to send me an email, jered@jeredpetrey.com. Pretty easy to remember. But also, I encourage you to get involved with local government. So we have a lot of different organizations here within the county, just at a governmental level, a lot of different layers. And how I got involved was just looking for who represents me, because I'll be honest, I didn't really know completely going into it. So I think that's the most important thing that we need to get to here in Hendricks County.
I was blessed in school with a great high school history teacher that left me with a long love of the subject. When I think about today's era, it reminds me of the late 60s, early 70s, with a war no one seems to want, an unpopular president with questionable morals, and general civil unrest. Then, like today, there were huge divides between the political parties, clashes in the streets, debates in the media, and mudslinging on the campaign trail. So it should come with no surprise, one of the terms thrown around then has recently been resurrected. Maybe you've heard it too. Communists. You know, it's been around for a long time, beginning with Senator Joseph McCarthy's Red Scare of the 50s. The theory behind it is simple. Make people afraid of a movement or belief you don't want them to agree with. Thankfully, eventually McCarthy was shown to be using doctored evidence, coerced testimony from false witnesses, and general bullying tactics. Great journalism, unbiased courts, and people with the backbone to stand up to the senator all combined to finally end his crusade and ruin his reputation. Chief Legal Counsel for the U.S. Army Joseph Welch summed up America's feelings in one great exclamation.
Senator, you've done enough. Have you no sense of decency, sir? At long last, have you left no sense of decency?
By the time of his death, McCarthy had been officially censured and stripped of all his political influence. And that same outcome will certainly happen again to those throwing this term around currently. Eventually, those under their influence will see what it is truly happening and abandon this sphere of influence. But like the blacklisted artists of the 50s, who lost their livelihoods and ability to work in their chosen professions, those who are injured by this rhetoric may never be made truly whole. So, let's get this on the record. Democrats aren't monsters, and we aren't communists. We are people who serve in the military, work in your government, educate your children, build your homes, worship in your churches, and live in your neighborhoods. That's right. We are your neighbors. We are folks who think everyone deserves to be treated equally. Every citizen should have the same access to health care, education, employment, food, housing, and the basic needs of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we believe the best way to ensure these are through laws and regulations. We believe in the Declaration of Independence, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the U.S. Constitution. And we are patriotic Americans who love our country and want to strive to keep it on its course, progressing toward a more perfect union. In the 50s, it took 7 years for America to realize McCarthy was just a bully and his victims didn't deserve the treatment they received. Let's hope this time around Americans realize those casting these aspersions are simply trying to divide us while hiding their own shortcomings. Simply put, kids don't have cooties, there aren't monsters under the bed or in your closet, there is no boogeyman, and Democrats are not communists. Thanks for joining us, Building Hendricks Blue. Please drop by our website, buildinghendricksblue.com, and drop us an email to let us know if you are enjoying this podcast. And we appreciate a like and your subscription to the show. Please ring that bell. I hope to see you here next time as we continue building Hendricks Blue.